Well, good morning, church. It is such a joy and a blessing to be with you in person. As the director of the MCCI, I bring you greetings from your bishop, Bishop Bruce O. of the Minnesota Conference, who is the one who, about a year ago now, invited you to become a participant in the resourcing initiative of the MCCI. And the MCCI has been journeying alongside you over the last year, as Pastor Dan has been describing with you, attempting to come alongside you and culminating on this milestone for what is next with your MCCI weekend, where the weekend team has been here since Friday morning to listen to your hopes and your dreams for your future. And we've listened to you in focus groups, in larger groups, individually. We've been taking notes. We didn't arrive with a plan for you. We've been listening for how God is speaking through you. And if you've been with the MCCI team in any capacity since we got here Friday morning, will you raise your hand? Yeah, look around. Wow. Wow. And I want you to know that yesterday, at the Saturday seminar, there were 120 of you present, and that broke the MCCI's record. We've been in existence for 6 years, and you broke it. And through all of the listening to you about your hopes and dreams, our MCCI weekend team created a report of what we heard the Spirit speak through you about your current reality and what you'd like to see happen. And we have put it together in a report that we'd like to share with everybody this morning. So, ushers, I'd like you to pass out a copy to everyone, and I want you to hear the first instructions about this. When you get it, would you just put it upside down in your lap until everyone has it? We have learned through the many churches that have taken the journey of the MCCI that it is most helpful when we can walk you through the highlights of this all together and give you explanation as we go. And we will not be reading it word for word. This is your copy. You can take it home and read it word for word into the details. But if we walk through it part by part, page by page, that allows us a little greater explanation about what we heard from you and what this report means. And so after everyone has a copy and we've walked through the highlights, I'll then describe in a little more specificity what is going to happen next after today, so that we all are on the same page for what to expect. So if you still don't have one, would you raise your hand? And we'll make sure of that. And just to assure you, for anybody who isn't here today, the pastors and the staff and others will make sure that these are widely available. The church has it electronically, and so no shortage of access to be able to have this. Yeah, thank you. Just keep it on your lap, and we'll look through it together, and that allows us to give you the explanation so that you understand your report. Now remember, we've been listening to you since Friday morning. We've listened to so many of you. We've taken so many notes. And so as we go through the report, this should sound familiar, because who has told us about all this? Yes. So I think some of this will bring you a smile. So if you now, it looks like everybody has it, if you want to turn over to the back of the cover, I'd like to start there. And so in this report, we began by naming 5 strengths that you told us over and over and over that you love about this church. You told us about many strengths, but these were the 5 that we heard the most. One of them was your pastor and your pastors and your staff. And you told us these are your leaders and you love them. Is that true? Yeah, show them a little more love. In fact, the church that pastors and staff. All right. You told us about how they have made sure that on both campuses of your church that there is a rich, loving environment so that you can make deep friendships. Some of you have had for a lifetime, haven't you, in this church. This church has become your family for so many. A second strength you told us about was your historically strong preschool, children and youth ministry. You, for a very long time, have had a commitment to the next generation. In fact, we heard stories that you are known for that preschool, aren't you, in the area? That people call and they know that this is the place to be able to bring their child. You have a big commitment to your church children's ministry and your youth ministry. And I think this is the first place I've ever been, church, that has a youth director who's been here for 21 years. Thank you, Amy. So what a strength that is. A third strength you told us about is you really love the fact that this church has prioritized having different worship styles. You've got your traditional service with the organ and the choir. You've got your contemporary service with Rick here and his team. And you've got the worship opportunity at Peaceful Grove. So for the membership, there's really something for everyone, isn't there? And people have choices. A fourth strength you told us about often was your service and missions and your commitment to different mission opportunities to serve, not only in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, but the mission trips that the youth go on, the mission opportunities that the adults have taken, and mission is important to you, isn't it? And so flip over, and at the top of the next page, a fifth strength that you have told us about, and we certainly have seen, is the potential of the Peaceful Grove campus. The Minnesota Conference has identified Cottage Grove as a suburban area with accelerating population growth and a ripe mission field. And isn't it amazing, maybe for such a time as this, that God has the Peaceful Grove congregation campus right in the midst of that with such significant potential for outreach and spiritual welcome. Well, right along with the strengths, you shared with us some concerns, and here were the concerns that we heard over and over, things you'd like to see changed or be different. One is, you have some lack of familiarity out in the community. We sent mystery worshipers to your church. Did you know that? We sent mystery worshipers here. And part of their assignment was to stop at local businesses not too far from you and ask where your church was. And this happened for the Peaceful Grove campus and the Woodbury campus. And did you know that the majority of businesses had never heard of you? Had no idea where you were. Even the ones close by. And we've realized you're one of the best kept secrets around. With all of the great things going on inside here, you remain relatively invisible to your communities. And that's a concern. Here's a second one. You told us that your discipleship and connection pathways are limited, that there could be some growth in this area, that you don't yet have a really well-established, intentional, what we call a discipleship pathway that is an easy connection for new people to get into, to make friends like themselves, to get involved. In fact, we heard that from some of your newest attendees and members, that it takes them a while to figure out how to kind of get in. We also heard that your name is a little bit lengthy. You told us that, and people wondered if the name is even a little awkward and might have something to do with your identity in the community. A third concern you told us about was, as long-standing and well-established as your children's ministry and your youth ministry are, there might be some gaps that could be addressed. For example, what are the best practices to make sure that after confirmation, we don't have a drop-off between confirmation and the high school youth ministry? You know, you told us about that. And how do we connect with the parents of children and teens so that they're part of the worship community? And in fact, how do we expand the bridges that we're building from the preschool into the congregation? The fourth concern you told us about, we call refreshment of weekly worship. You certainly appreciate your weekly worship and the preaching and the music. Many of you told us that maybe it's time to evolve it a little bit creatively, to go to the next level, to think how we can even update ourselves a little bit in worship for best possible spiritual engagement. And if you turn over on the top of the next page, this concern is the lack of outreach growth in Cottage Grove. One of the strengths is there's such potential for outreach in Cottage Grove, but one of the concerns we heard about, and from the mystery worshipers who visited Peaceful Grove, they loved the hospitality. It was so wonderful and loving and caring, but they said they might not return because they didn't see anyone in their age group there. And you know how people want to be with their age group, and you expressed some concerns about that and what could happen to give that a shift. So do those sound familiar to you? Yes. So in light of that, here are your 5 prescriptions or potential next steps to jumpstart traction in these areas in order to usher in a new next season of fruitfulness. And we'll begin with, we're right on page 4, prescription number 1. You can read it word for word later. Let me just give you the highlights here. And the first one, we said, being the hope. That's a great slogan, isn't it? Isn't that a wonderful slogan for your church? So how are we being the hope and getting a recognizable invitational identity in the community established so everybody knows where you are and what you're about? Would you love that? So here are the proposals in these prescriptions. The first one is that the core team would create what we've nicknamed a church name clarity team. And by various means, whatever means that they feel most strategic, whether it's by surveys or focus groups or whatever, just that the church would have the discussion. Do we still like the name Woodbury Peaceful Grove, or does it need to be adjusted in any way? Are we satisfied with it, or should it be streamlined, whatever? And we heard you talk about that so much. We wanted to create an intentional opportunity for the congregations, both campuses, to look at that and kind of decide this. Yes, we like it as it is, or maybe we want to shift it. And so that's the first part of this, is letting the congregation really take a serious look at that. The second is, in order to give Woodbury Peaceful Grove a really recognizable visual identity in the community, we will provide the MCCI what we call a prescription coach to come alongside you, and a visual identity team you'll create to create a brand new brand or look with a logo, kind of a signature look. And the prescription coach will help you design fresh, updated templates for signage and bulletins and all social media. So with the goal that anybody in your community, when they see it, know immediately that it's you. And just to explain what a prescription coach is, a prescription coach is a successful ministry leader in his or her own setting, somewhere in Minnesota or anywhere in the country. We need to bring them at the MCCI's expense, who comes alongside you and brings the expertise and that successful track record to help you know how to accomplish whatever that part of a prescription is. Does that make sense? and they stay with you by presence, Skype, phone, text, and coaching for up to 2 years to help you with that implementation. So in this case, the prescription coach is very hands-on with assisting you. Another part of this prescription is that there would be a Woodbury Peaceful Grove social media team, and we align you with a prescription coach to help you really leverage social media to get the word out about yourselves and how to do that effectively in the 21st century. It's easier than you think, and it's pretty much cost-free if you know how to go about it. Another one is that you'll add to your welcome team an expanded first impressions team with a prescription coach to take a look at that nice spacious lobby you have and what could happen there to turn that into incredible wow space for new visitors to walk in. That people can walk in and immediately feel the vitality of what's happening here. You know, the guest readiness that says, we are at the top of our game here, and what potential could that space hold to go to the next level? And right along with that, we learned from the mystery worshipers that your outside signage could have a few additions to help people know where to park, and this team would work on that as well. Now, let's turn over to the next page, and the last part of that, we wanted to mention something called the triad approach to outreach events. It's a training piece that Pastor Dan has been exposed to in the monthly Pastor's Training Day. We talked about it yesterday at the Saturday seminar, and should you accept this report, the MCCI will provide a trainer to train all the leaders and the core team, the staff of the church, on implementing this triad approach to help you get relational momentum to connect new people into the congregation and to give the congregation and equip you opportunities to invite new people. Now, that's a little bit of a long prescription. Let me move through the other ones here. The second one we've called Being the Hope, Quick and Effective Connections. And in this one, we provide, again, prescription coaches to help you implement and expand your work going on with your adult discipleship classes. A front-end piece we call First Friends, which is the best thing I have ever seen for a church to create quick connection points for new people to meet other people like themselves and to establish friends in the church. And another MCCI piece that we've created, it's called the Launch Seminar. It can be offered quarterly, and it helps people connect into serving around their passion so you can increase the many people that are volunteering. And so we have put some pieces in that prescription to help create ways to really make sure no one falls through the cracks if they visit your great church and they develop a pathway in. The third prescription we call Being the Hope, your long-time signature ministry from good to great. We heard over our weekend with you, many of you said we need a signature ministry at this church. Does that ever thought that, or heard anybody say that? And you know, the fact is, friends, you have a fabulous, historic, long-time, good signature ministry in this community. Did you know that? You started it in 1965, and it is your commitment to children with your preschool, with your children's ministry, and with your youth. Do you know your reputation for that? Isn't it incredible? How many children, Dan, do you suppose have come through that preschool over all those years? Thousands that your church has raised up. That word of mouth, now they're sending their children. You have this. And what would it mean to address those gaps that you shared as concerns so that this signature ministry that you're already known for goes from good to great? Are you with me? So turn over to the next page. We have actually proposed in this prescription the best coach in children and youth and family ministry in the country, Renee Street, She's very high demand, difficult to get, but the MCCI, should you pass your report, will secure her as your prescription coach to address the gaps that you told us about, to help provide connections, better bridges from your preschool into your children's ministry, to help include parents into your congregation, to help address the gap between confirmation and youth group with best practices, and the many other needs that you told us about, to help your signature go from good to even more amazing. Do you like that idea? And you're going to have the best. And she has promised that if you vote yes, she'll prioritize the time to be your coach. Well, there's a couple more prescriptions. We're almost done. This one is called Being the Hope, Worship Enhancement. And we proposed here that should you accept the report, Pastor Dan and the MCCI will team together to identify what we'll call a worship enhancement coach that will come alongside you and work with the pastors to create and assemble a creative worship design team. And that's a modern day way to really bring creative thematic elements to worship, new and fresh energy to what is happening in worship, to team with your great musicians, Rick and others, on how to engage the congregation even more in song and singing and all the things that happen, how God speaks to us in music. And so that's what that prescription is about in response to your comments. And now on prescription number 5, and I want to smile at our brothers and sisters who are here from the Peaceful Grove campus today. Pastor John and I, as John mentioned, had a wonderful focus group of 20 of you on Thursday night. That kicked off the MCCI weekend. And we loved your spirit, and we loved how you told us that it would be incredible to you that the church could be filled and used to reach the next generation if resources allowed that to happen. And so in this prescription, we have proposed that the core team would assemble a Cottage Grove feasibility study team, which will include Pastor Dan and the district superintendent, Cynthia Williams, another conference staff person, Ben Ingebrigtsen, to explore conference-funded options that could be added to the already existing lay-led service at Peaceful Grove that would provide that missional outpost to the growing Cottage Grove community, and just explore the possibilities, whatever they might be, and see what God might have. And I thank you, Pastor Cynthia, for just your proactive leadership and strategy for this church and many others on the district. Well, friends, have you got the sense of the highlights of the report? And so let me just summarize what is going to happen next. It's printed down here, the immediate next steps. Pastor Dan has scheduled over the next 30 days 3 different town hall meetings. They'll be held here at the Woodbury campus. They're open to anyone who'd like to come. There'll be copies of the report. They're not occasions to try to get down into details and figure out how we would do these. Because if you have a yes vote, remember you get all these prescription coaches who help you with the how. You understand that. These are just town hall meetings to pray and discern whether these are God's next steps for us. And after 30 days, your district superintendent, Pastor Cynthia, will return, and all church conference will be convened. And if you're a member on the official rolls of either of the campuses and you're present, you're able to vote, and it's a simple yes or no vote. Yes, these are God's next steps for us, or no, they're not. And it's a collective vote around all prescriptions at once, since they work synergistically together. And if the vote is 75% or better yes, you have decided officially together to forge ahead with these. And things get very busy. Pastor Dan and I will be networking quickly. You'll be assembling those prescription work teams around your interests. We'll be aligning the prescription coaches, and it's going to get really, really exciting really quickly as all of this begins to unfold. Now, if the vote was less than 75%, you might be wondering what happens then. And what happens then is that the prescription report, the MCCI report, has not been approved. Now, you get to keep the report. You are still Woodbury Peaceful Grove United Methodist Church. You keep your buildings, your pastors, keep everything. And you proceed however you feel led. However, the partnership and the resourcing and all the prescription coaching of the MCCI simply moves on to the other churches in the process that have voted yes. Well, I want you to know that Pastor Dan saw your MCCI report for the first time at 6:30 this morning. So he's just a couple of hours ahead of you looking at it, but he has had a little time. And I really think at a moment like this, that the best thing to do is turn the microphone back over to your own Pastor Dan, and I think he has a word. Thank you, Dan.